Now, TVZ, Bomber, not really been having too much presence as of late.
Yeah.
But he's still a very, very strong hard hitter.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to note that the results of Bomber do not line up with his play at all. I mean, I've even gotten the chance to see a lot of Bomber's private play, and it has been looking just astoundingly good. He is going up against Delphi, who is one of these players who is one of the overshadowed German players. Pretty much everyone thinks of Sokka and Hasuabs when you think of Germany, but I'd probably say that, I mean, top 10 German player? How do you feel about Delphi's current skill level?
No, definitely. I mean, Delphi in the EPS in Germany, in terms of national performance, has been performing extremely well. He has 2 finishes here to be able to actually go for that. He has 2 finishes in first place on the EPS qualification process for the summer season of EPS. Aside from that, though, internationally not really had too much representation. So here is really his chance to shine, in essence.
Yeah, and I mean, again, going up against Bomber is just never a fun thing to be doing first round. It is nice that in the open bracket you have the 2 best of 3s, so you can't immediately end up getting knocked out of the tournament in round 1. But there is Bomber on Team Startail, a Red Bull-sponsored athlete, has a ton of GSL success under his belt, even winning a Code A over MVP.
Yeah. Who can forget that? That was fantastic. And I actually really like his headset. I've never seen that headset, but it's that's fantastic as well. Using fantastic a lot. But yeah, Bomber is one of the players that, in my mind, earlier on in the Korean scene, really kind of pushed the innovation for Terran. He was one of the first players to, for example, do very, very small things like put supply depots like in an arrangement in front of bunkers. To be able to just bolster the defenses a little bit more, and especially against Zerg, going up against Delphi, for example, there's no reason you don't do that, to be able to just like negate a lot of the damage that a good amount of the melee units are going to be doing early on. And it can work wonders on maps.
I mean, he's the sort of player who takes the notion of standard stable play and takes it to an extreme with those non-standard techniques that you've been talking about, and I do think that that will be the biggest hurdle for Delphi to hop over.
Indeed, indeed. So we are going to be jumping on into the first game.
I like this motion that you're doing, where there's like about to be a meal served before you.
Dude, it's going to be a yummy one. I don't know how else to say it. Bomber versus Delphi to kick things off here for the entire tournament. It's going to be good.
Now, the first map is going to be on Ohana, which is one of these maps that people have kind of been shifting the way they're playing on quite a bit. But for the most part, we see 3-basing aggressive Terrans. How do you think Delphi's going to have to adjust?
Well, again, it's a smaller map, like you just previously alluded to. It's a smaller map than the likes of, say, Daybreak and, you know, the big, like, Cloud Kingdom. The rush distances are a bit smaller. So going into that 3-base scenario where you do see all that aggression, it's easy for Zergs to, for example, shut that down from a Terran because of the way in which they spread their overlords down the left and right-hand columns, where you can't necessarily get too much vision with ground units. And then spreading your units across the opening, as well as getting that all-important creep spread going, which is very easy to do on Ohana because it's all like one level in the mid. Then it's all very, very good.
Let's go ahead and introduce our players. Down in the bottom left from Germany and Team Alternate Attacks, it will be Delphi.
And spawning up to the top left-hand corner, we do have the red Terran, and his name is Startail Bomber.
Now, Bomber is constructing his depot right next to his main command center. Does save you about 15 extra minerals as opposed to constructing it out by your entrance natural ramp. However, Bomber does tend to be the player who likes to do these 1 barracks early expand. Do you think this is ever a risk against a player like Delphi?
I think the Delphi is, again, another Zerg that does like to play straight up. He can mix it up from time to time, but Delphi is more happy going into a macro situation. And again, especially on Ohana, I do like the way in which Zergs are able to transition into that macro game, because the ability to spread creep can be so strong. And, ooh, even checking for a little bit of a proxy there, potentially. As Delphi just going for that hatchery first, which is always very, very standard from here.
Yeah, I like that move to do that check on the proxy, because now it looks like Delphi is feeling comfortable building these 2 extra drones, which is something we see players not doing as often on Ohana. But I think that Delphi's going to be very pleased when he sees that Bomber hasn't walled in. This not only means that he's certainly early expanding, but also would indicate that Bomber's going to have to play a little bit more defensively. He can't hide anything from Delphi, and there scooting around. He will get the count on the SCVs, see that it's a reasonable amount. He knows where everything is, and there's the one barracks early expand from Bama.
Ah, yes, and just to come back to what you said at the start of that, I really like, as you said, what Delphi did with the two extra drones. Normally what you would see from a Zerg is trying to go for a spawning pool almost straight after going for that hatchery, just to be able to keep themselves warded against some early aggression, but establishing that that threat wasn't there, and from there on going for it. Very, very nicely done.
Drone now pulling back. Quite an early gas geyser coming out of Bomber, but just an early single gas geyser. So this is generally an indication that he wants to be going for some sort of fast factory play. Could very well go for oh, looks our admin left the game. At first I thought that was Delphi that just got his Overlord shot a couple times and was like, screw this, I'm out. But everything seems pretty well and good. But interestingly, Bomber's building a second barracks. Perhaps he has some sort of timing push planned, as a lot of players are steering more towards barracks play.
I think he probably will end up having the third barracks on as well. There we go. To be able to, I mean, just going for this, able to kind of ward yourself a little bit, maybe with extra bunkers at the front, to be able to deal with any kind of potential roach pressure that would come along would be nice. But it seems to me like Bomber probably could have got quite easily away against Delphi with going up to that factory quickly for the Hellions if he wants to try and put some harassment on with that, or even some kind of containment ability from there on.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the Hellion opening in general, but I'm really intrigued to see what Bomber's bringing out. I mean, the first player I saw do this early barracks aggression was Ganji, and it worked absolutely stunningly. What will generally happen is 2 tech labs will go down simultaneously, followed by some Marauder combat shield aggression. But Delphi is just doing kind of a normal opening, just getting his double queen up, making sure that his creep spread gets started. We see that there are 4 queens out right now. 2 early extractors as well. Almost always players would delay those if they get 4 early queens and go for the fast third base. But now Bomber looks like he's building Marines 4 at a time, getting himself a factory up. Haven't seen anything quite yet out of Bomber.
The interesting variation that I'm seeing from Bomber is the fact that normally when you see a Terran go 3 barracks right after command center, or two extra barracks after command center, they will normally go for a second gas at the same time as the first gas. Now he's only got 1 gas. Normally it's to get the 2 gases so that you have enough gas to then transition to siege tech and siege tanks. But for now, he's playing very, very gas light in this earlier stage. And, I mean, where do you think he's going to go from here with that kind of play?
Well, I would have been ordinarily convinced that there was some sort of combat shield play coming up. There, finally, is the combat shield play coming up. And look at this. It looks like he's going for a large Marine force. He's going to even get some Hellions. And, a nice bunker placement. It looks like Delphi doesn't see that bunker at all. And there, Delphi now swinging forward with a lot of his queens. Will not be able to get in position. And, Bomber's going to be able to catch a queen off guard.
Oh, indeed, he may end up doing so. Nice little micro move there by Bomber to be able to keep one of the 2 of those Marines alive against the Queens. Kills off the Zerglings, and this hatchery is very, very much under threat right now.
Yeah, this is a awful spot to be in. We see that Delphi is at 85% done with that hatchery, and now that that bunker is done, he's going to need to cancel. Loses 1 queen right off the bat, still having to deal with this push, and oh no, it looks like he's actually going to let it finish. I don't know if I like that, Kalaris.
Oh no, he could have quite easily cancelled that, and from there on, with the second bunker going down as well, this position is so well reinforced. Banelings are morphing in to try and bust this, but the hatchery is probably going to go down here unless he's able to pull out some kind of miracle attack with these Zerglings. Speed's going to be finishing up in just a little bit as well, but look at that positioning of the Marines next to the mineral lines there by Bomber.
And there's the push forward with the Baneling Nest attempted, but pulled back at the last second. A transfuse trying to keep that alive a little bit longer. Banelings now darting forward, and it looks like they will do some good damage, but Bomber's going to pull out and immediately salvage. 3 more Banelings about to pop out as well.
Oh, perfect decision making there by Bomber, adding on that second bunker to be able to just bolster the position once again. But actually, with those last Baneling hits, he actually might be able to save this hatchery.
This is a nice save.
Wow. That I did not expect that. That was clutch. With that transfuse just alone, that was going to be so close if that transfuse hadn't gone down as well.
And if we come back to the unit station, we see that, amazingly, that Delphi is ahead in the drone count. He does have 4 hatcheries up right now. Bomber's doing pretty good defensively. He's getting up his engineering base. He has Marines with combat shield. He has small number of Hellions out right now, 6 out in the middle of the map. But he gets 3 pinned. This is an unusual little set of flubs from Bomber.
Yeah, Delphi is playing this, well, I mean, he's capitalizing on his opponent's mistakes in that position there. But not only that, when it came to that bunker pressure, he really dealt with that very, very nicely. So extremely impressive by Delphi right now. But as you said, off the back of this, Bomber is by no means down and out at all. He is getting his third command center up. He's getting those upgrades out. He's getting Stim on the way. There is a Roach Warren going down for Delphi to try and deal with this, and centrifugal hooks to deal with the very, very light-based army that we're seeing from Bomber here. But this is a very, very scary push in itself.
Bomber continuing this theme that Terrans are doing all nowadays, just a mass aggression. There's the Baneling spreading in, but look at the splitting by Bomber. An incredible job keeping all those Marines nicely spread apart. And there we see the Hellion Marine Force with Combat Shield now stepping into action. 9 Roaches in production, and Delphi is again looking really, really, really close to holding.
Yeah, it's always down to the wire with Delphi right now. It's so tension-filled as Delphi is going to be able to push this back, but just barely with the help of those queens. And with the Roaches reinforcing now, he is going to be fine and dandy. So Bomber, with all its aggression, but not having it able to pay off for him.
Oh, but it does look like we see some Hellions darting up into the main base. 1 falls, but 3 manage to get up. That's enough to be able to one-shot those drones.
It is indeed, as some drones come off the line to try and pincer them in there against those Zerglings. Not going to be able to catch them, though, but the Zerglings with that speed finally chase them down. And actually, he's only lost around 9 workers in total, as the more Hellions in the third base here, roasting those drones. Really nice double-pronged aggression there by Bomber.
Looks like 13 workers total have been killed off, but I mean, Kelaris, I'm not exactly convinced that Bomber's done the damage that he needs to. If you look at the units lost tab, it's quite high for Delphi, but look at the overall supply counts. It's 80 to 135. 23 Roaches out on the field, only 11 Marines, and I mean, if Delphi just gathers together a bunch of Banelings and goes for the bust, I honestly think that it's going to work.
No, you're right. I mean, considering the units lost tab and now seeing that Delphi, yes, has lost a little more than Bomber, you've got to always factor in the fact that Delphi at this point in the game has mined a little bit more than Bomber as well. Yeah. So he is now pushing up to that 140, 150 supply.
Oh my God.
And look at this push. This is crazy.
Oh no, and Bomber is going to get caught at the worst possible angle. He's moving up. Oh, looks like 1 Marine does spot this huge force rolling in.
God.
He has the speed, and he was shooting at the destructible rocks. Now all the Banelings are rolling in, immediately annihilating these front line of bunkers, and oh my God, I think Bomber is in a ton of trouble, Kelaris.
Oh, indeed. Delphi now capitalizing on the position that Bomber finds himself in. At the start of this push, he only had 17 Marines and 1 Marauder, and this many.
And there's good
GG.
game. An incredibly unexpected result as Delphi takes down Bomber with ease.
Oh my, Bomber's aggression just did not help him out there from the very get-go, and Delphi was able to shut it down. Admittedly, saving that hatchery was very fine indeed. And if that had have gone down, there would have been less lava for him to go into that mid-game, which might have hindered him a little bit going into that particular push itself. But Delphi capitalized on his opponent's mistakes, and from there on was able to do what he saw.
Yeah, you know.